YouTube, what is going on? Welcome back to another Identity 5 video. Before we get into the video, I would like to say that about 70% of the people who watch these videos are not currently subscribed. So if you are enjoying the content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. I really do appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into the video. And I know it's been a little while since I've uploaded like a video, like it's, you know, in opposed to a stream. And we've been really busy with Koa and commentating and all that sort of stuff. So now we're finally back to getting the steady videos at least once a week, hopefully 2 a week. And I'm also going to upload some shorts and stuff. But anyways, without further ado, we're going to get into the tier list for Season 25 Hunter. And with the recent Koa qualifiers that have been going on, this list is basically, it's definitely based around that, and then of course how well hunters are in rank and whatnot. So anyways, looking at our 5 tiers today, we have C tier, B, A tier, A+, and S tier. And then C tier is essentially kind of the weakest hunters in the game, characters that are really not good in rank and unlikely to see in tournaments. You may see them very, very rarely, but they're extremely uncommon because they're not strong. They're some of the weakest hunters in the game. B tier are hunters that are viable in very late round situations, very situational and decent in rank, but not necessarily ideal. The next tier is A tier. These hunters are good later rounds. They're very strong in late rounds of tournaments, and they're also perfectly fine hunters to play in rank. Next is A+ tier. These are some of the best hunters in the game. You can play them round 1 in some situations in tournaments, and especially rounds 2 and 3, and they're also very, very strong in rank. And then S tier, of course, are the best hunters in the game. If you master these hunters, you will be a very strong hunter. And there's unfortunately, some of them in S tier are very difficult to play, but they're very strong. And they're typically used in early rounds in tournaments and the most common hunters in rank once the players have mastered them. Okay, so the first tier, which is C tier, and the first hunter in C tier is Nightmare. Nightmare, a lot of these C tier hunters, I'm not going to explain a lot because we explained a lot of them in previous tier lists, but Nightmare is essentially very weak with its chase. You can, as long as you create enough distance, he can't dash you, just constantly transition kite. You can tight kite around pallets, break line of sight. If he doesn't have full presence, it takes him a long time to get the vision on you. Full presence Nightmare is pretty good, but besides that, Nightmare can't curve jump, so if you get to the side of a pallet, he's not going to be able to hit you. Nightmare's chase is just very, very bad. Early game, he'll get kited for a long time. He struggles against support. He struggles against any character with transition kiting. He struggles against most characters, to be honest. And overall, he has no camping abilities, and his map pressure is pretty good in that you can use the crow to teleport, but the crow cooldown, the teleport cooldown is very, very long, which makes him very weak as well. So overall, Nightmare is just very weak. His map pressure is, while it's pretty good, his chase is not very good and he has no camping abilities. He really has nothing that makes up a good hunter, and that makes him a C tier hunter. The next hunter in C tier is Evil Reptilian or Lizard. We actually saw Lizard get 1 match in Japan qualifiers. It might have been more, actually. There's still a few Japan matches I have to watch, but there was a team that was kind of solely based around Lucino. It was like the Lucino Lizard team or whatever. I don't know. Is it Lucino? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's something like that. Anyways, so it was entirely based around that, and this dude played round 1 Lizard, and he actually got a draw against one of the Identity 5 Japan League teams, which was very difficult, but he was able to do that, so that was pretty impressive. But overall, still, Lizard's just not very strong. His early game chase is not very good. As soon as he jumps to go to the other side of the pallet, you can just walk back through the pallet and throw it down, or try to mind game, or just tight kite around pallets. There's just not a lot. Transition kiting isn't great because he can catch up very quickly with his jumps, but tight kiting just destroys Lizard. He also can struggle against support. His camping is not bad in that when you do the smash ability, he can smash and then instantly swing right after. So he has a quick turnaround. The smash radius is also pretty large, so it's sometimes hard to dodge. Besides that, that's really all he has going for him. His map pressure is decent because he can kind of get around the map quickly with his jumps, but there's better hunters for that in reality. So overall, just not great chase early game. Once he has present, he has decent chase and good camping, but besides that, not a whole lot of cypher pressure, and that makes him a C tier hunter. The next hunter in C tier is Ember, and Ember, again, very self-explanatory, no good chase in the early game. Until he gets stunned, which means once he gets his flames, once he gets his flames, he can use them to trap survivors, which is pretty good. But the problem is the AI on the phantoms kind of sucks. You can literally just juke it, and there's nothing that Ember can do. His camping is pretty good. Again, these C tier hunters will go through pretty quickly. His camping is pretty good in that you can spawn a flame. a Phantom, and then you can you have like 2 hunters camping at one time. You can stuff a rescue that way. And his Cypher Pressure, once he has 2 puppets, is pretty good. You can get around the map quickly with his puppets. But the problem is just regular chase is not good. Any survivor with transitioning abilities, once he puts up the Phantom to try to trap you in between the Phantom and the main body, you just use an ability to transition away, and there's nothing you can do. Like it's just not good, unfortunately. And you can also juke the AI Phantom. The puppets, you can tap them to freeze them for 5 seconds if they're under rage mode, or you can just take them down manually. His chase is very weak, and that's what makes him a C tier hunter. The next hunter in C tier is Ripper. Ripper is very hit or miss. If you essentially to a point where like if you miss one of your foggy blades at the start of the match, you're probably just gonna tie. Like your only chance to win with Ripper is pretty much hit almost every foggy, like 99% of your foggy blades. Maybe you miss one the whole game. And that's it, because the problem is until Ripper has presence, his chase is not very good. He only has foggy blades. He does not have invisibility. He does not have a speed increase. Once he has presence, his chase is not bad. He is invisible. Of course, you can still see where he is with the red light, but he is invisible, which makes it sometimes hard to see. You can shine the light through the wall to trick survivors. He's very fast while invisible, and that can be very useful with chase. But the biggest problem is that his foggy blade, survivors can juke it. If he misses the foggy blade, he doesn't come back for another 20 seconds. And good survivors are never going to give a free basic hit to a Ripper without a foggy blade because his hitbox is so small. He doesn't break the pallets that fast. I mean, he breaks them decently fast, but his hitbox is really bad without foggy blade. So essentially, like, you have to hit your foggy blades. If you don't, you're gonna be a bad spot. And also, survivors can juke into the Ripper and force a basic attack, forcing attack recovery, and then they can make a lot of distance, and the Ripper has to wait at least 20 seconds to get his foggy back. And there's a lot of characters that can also counter with support, such as Entomologist is a huge counter to Ripper, in that the bees completely block foggy blades. Antiquarian can destroy the foggy blade with her stick, and Antiquarian, as you see, as you guys have seen, has become a very strong character. And then any pallet, and then once he's invisible, any strong pallet or window that the hunter is forced to break or forced to vault to catch up to the survivor, then he loses his invisibility. Oh my god, I can't even talk. He loses his invisibility, which is just really not strong in general. So, unfortunately, Ripper is very reliant on hitting his foggies. If he doesn't, you're probably going to tie or lose. His camping is not even that good, because if you do hit a foggy blade while the survivor's next to the chair, they can actually get the rescue off before he can get his regular swing. And you can actually just guarantee the rescue anyways. You might get double hit, but you still get the rescue. And to make matters worse, he doesn't have any Cypher Pressure other than he's fast. So he does get Cypher Rush, and that's what makes him a C tier hunter. Need some water. Okay. The next hunter in C tier is Clown. There was a Clown in Japan qualifiers as well, but he had a really good start. Like, he had a really fast kill on the mechanic and still tied. That's how bad Clown is. So Clown, basically the idea with Clown is you put on an infinite drill and a fast drill, and you go out on the map and you try to hit a survivor, and then you blink them for the second hit. And if you crash, you're screwed. You essentially can't crash. Clown's also very map specific. He's not good on maps like Arms Factory or Sacred Heart Hospital with a lot of strong pallets, things like that. He's good on big open maps, so like Chinatown, Moonlight Lakeside. Besides that, it's really just not that good. If you go for an infinite dash and you crash, you gotta go find more parts, put them back on, go for the infinite dash again. It's just really weak. And until he has full presence, his dash is also not very fast at all. So that makes it even worse. And on top of all that, you can actually just flywheel the dash. If you flywheel the dash, it actually stops the dash and you don't take damage. So flywheel itself is a direct counter to Clown, and that's not including all the characters that counter Clown. Entomologist, Enchantress, Antiquarian, Prospector. Anything that can stop the Clown's dash is just a really hard counter to him. So Prospector and Magnum Hunter you can attract him into a wall while he's dashing. Cancel the dash, Antiquarian can stun with the stick, Enchantress can use a single stun, Magician can use an illusion, he'll cross into the illusion. There's just so many characters that counter, and that's what makes Clown C tier. He doesn't really have any camping abilities besides he can try to go for Lucky Terror Shocks, but if you don't get that, then it's a luck-based hunter, and luck-based hunters, as you guys have seen, are inconsistent. Unfortunately, that makes them low-tier hunters, and that's what makes Clown in C tier. Moving on to the next tier, which is B tier, and the first character in B tier is Gamekeeper. Now, Gamekeeper has good chasing abilities with his hook. The hook hitbox is very good. You guys obviously know that. It's pretty broken how it literally just changes an angle to grab a survivor. And he also has his traps, which you can set up in narrow areas where survivors would like to kite through, like very strong pallets and very strong windows. So Gamekeeper's chase is actually quite good. The biggest problem is that, one, you can break line of sight, which can be an issue. Two, he has zero map pressure at all. Like, he gets Cypher Rushed like to hell, dude. Like, it's really bad. He has zero map control. He's not fast. He can kind of get around the map quickly, kind of once he's full presence, because he can just hook off walls to get around fast. But besides that, you have to be full presence, and even so, it's still not that fast. So while he has really good chase, he doesn't really have camping besides going for a terror shock with the hook. If you don't get that again, that's inconsistent. It's like a luck-based strategy is inconsistent, right? And luck-based hunters usually are not very strong. And then on top of that, he also again, there's characters that counter him. Entomologist, if you get off the bees, that blocks the hook. Magician can illusion. You can illusion the hook. And this is when am I saying illusion the hook? I mean, when he goes for the hook, you just drop your illusion, and the hook will hit the illusion, and the magician gets away. You can flywheel the hook as well. Like, there's just so many ways that you can counter Gamekeeper. And unfortunately, that's what makes him B tier, including his limited cyber control. The next hunter in B tier is Violinist. And Violinist is, again, unfortunately, just one of those hunters that just has not great chase early game. So similar to something like Lizard. But what makes him actually a little bit better is that he actually has a degree of cipher control. And that you can actually throw, once you have your first presence, your 1000 presence, you can throw notes at cipher machines. And that'll actually, if it hits the survivor, it slows down their decoding and interaction speed. So they have to remove them before they can go back to decoding, or else the decoding will be very slow. If they choose to dodge the notes, then they're not decoding, which means they're wasting time dodging notes instead of pushing cipher machines. So you actually have a degree of cipher control with that. And to make things even better, once you reach full presence, he has the infinite note ability, which, like the infinite melody or whatever it's called, where you push out the note and it extends out and it can hit, like it shoots out like a wave and you can hit survivors. Now, the problem is they can dodge it. If they stand between the lines, they can dodge it. But if you're in a situation where the hunter's chasing and you got to move around, it's hard to sometimes get between the lines and you can get a hit that way. Even if you do, then they have to stop sometimes to do that, which means you can get a free hit. So there's just kind of a lot of ways that Violinist has good chase once he has full presence. And actually, once he has 1000 presence, his chase is not bad either, because you have the notes that slow down survivors, slow down their interaction speed, and you can walk and swing at the same time, which is also nice because it helps you counter things like Entomologist. You can swing through the bees while walking forward, and you can get through them very quickly. And that's very useful. So because of that, or even like an illusion, if your magician uses an illusion in a palette, you can just swing and walk through it, and that's very nice, right? So because of these things, this makes Violinist better than Lizard. Something like Evil Reptilian, it puts him in B tier. But the problem is, again, like his early game chase is very weak. Support early game is very strong against him. And he doesn't have as great cipher control as a lot of the A+ and S tier hunters have. And that's what makes him a B tier hunter. The next hunter in B tier is Feaster. And Feaster is similar. I think of Feaster and Violinist to be almost the same. Like they're just very similar. And that Feaster, like early game chase is also not great. But with Feaster, it's once you reach your full presence and you have a lot of tentacles available, you have the tentacle smash. You can throw up tentacles. You can throw them down right away. Feaster is a very straightforward hunter. Literally his only ability is tentacles. Like there's no special ability. It's not like Violinist where you can throw notes and then you push out the notes. There's no special abilities. It's just tentacles and long hitbox essentially. When you have no presence, Feaster can get kited. You can loop tentacles. You can pallet spam, force Feaster to break pallets because he breaks pallets very slow. And there's just really not a lot that a Feaster can do. But once he does get his first kill, he does have. You typically want to bring fast attack recovery, Berserker. So when you cut off a survivor, you can cut off a survivor from a distance, hit them, have fast attack recovery, have a tentacle waiting on chair, throw down the tentacle, and you can stuff the rescue that way. And the reason why this is very strong is because Feaster can throw down a tentacle and it actually points to the direction of the closest survivor that's not currently on a rocket chair. So if you have a survivor on a rocket chair, you throw down a tentacle, it's not going to point to that survivor, it's going to point to the next closest survivor, and you can cut them off from that way, cut them off from a distance, hit them, attack recovery, have a tentacle waiting on chair, and you can stuff a rescue that way. Now, he does have some degree of cypher control as well, because when you do down a survivor, a tentacle will spawn next to every survivor on the map. It'll spawn up next to every survivor on the map, and they're forced to take it down before they continue to decode, because their decoding gets slowed down a little bit if they don't do that. So Feaster has a slight degree of cypher control with that. And then, of course, you can also cut off survivors from a distance, since you can use a tentacle to find their location. You can use it to find survivors who are hiding, which is useful. So Feaster has a little bit of extra perks that Violinist doesn't have, and that's what makes him slightly better. But he's still, of course, a B-tier hunter. The next hunter in B-tier is Chang. And Chang, or Chang, if we want to say it with the technically the correct pronunciation. The biggest issue with this hunter is that his early game chase is very weak. But with Chang, like, your pressure around the map is very good. Obviously, your mobility is insane. He is one of the most mobile map mobility hunters in the game, in that you can use your umbrella to teleport across the map. The cooldown's only 30 seconds, and it's very good. Now, the difference between white and black form, with white form, you have you're slower, you break pallets slower, you vault windows slower. However, you have a very long hitbox, which can be very useful. A lot of people hate the white form long hitbox, but you kind of need it because your early game chase is not very strong. And then black form is really good, because black form breaks pallets incredibly fast, vaults windows quickly, swings very fast, which makes it very hard to mind game. His hitbox is very small, but he swings incredibly fast. And once you have presence, Black Form is really good because you have the bell, which essentially just stuns survivors, knocks them down. You can get a free hit on them that way. And if you bell them twice at some point and they fail 2 calibrations, then they get reverse controls. And that's really strong. Actually, a play you can do is when you teleport with full presence, you get the instant bell and then you immediately regular bell them right after. That'll actually cancel the first bell and force them to hit it basically fails their calibration automatically, and then they have to hit the second calibration or else they're going to get reverse controls. So you might think, oh, it's easy to hit calibration, but with the bell, it's actually not as easy because it doesn't have the yellow, like the perfect calibration, the yellow marker. So it actually feels a little weird when you're trying to hit it. So it's really not as good as it actually seems. It's not as easy as it seems. And then white form, of course, has the soul siphon, which if you cut off a survivor from a distance, you can soul siphon them and they can't rescue for a certain amount of time. They can't interact with objects such as pallets, vaulting windows, and all that. So, but most survivors have rescuing abilities like Marcus elbow pads, grip you can just shovel, forward and football the chair. So it's very difficult to actually get a soul siphon off against a rescue type character. And yeah, again, Chang has all the traits that make him a good hunter, except his early game chase. He has good map pressure, he has good chase once he has presence, and he has good camping abilities, kind of, once he has presence, if he can cut off the rescuer from a distance. But he does get kited in the early game, unfortunately, and that's what makes him a B-tier hunter. The next hunter in B-tier is Photographer, and Photographer is... Photographer is very interesting. For those of you who watch my streams, we have to play at least one Photographer match every stream because everybody loves Joseph. Even though playing him is kind of painful, everyone loves him, so we gotta play him at least once. And because I've played Photo so much, I've actually become kind of good with them, even though I don't want to be, but it is what it is. Anyways, Photographer is a cypher control hunter, right? So when you take a picture, photo world ends, all cypher progress gets reduced. So it actually, gives you good cypher control, which is quite nice. However, he has no chasing abilities at all. So your real game plan with Photo is to try to injure everyone in Photo World, and then when the Photo World ends, a bunch of survivors get injured around the map, and then you can down them with a blink. And that's kind of your game plan. And if you're lucky, you're able to find a bunch of survivors in Photo World, injure them all, and then no one can rescue. However, if you don't find a lot of survivors in Photo World, you're going to lose the game because then you can't find injured survivors. You don't injure enough survivors so they can all rescue, then they can rebound kite after being rescued, and Photo just gets kited because he's already wasted his blink, stuff like that. So with Photo is extremely luck-based. You have to find a lot of survivors. A part of it is memorizing spawns, yes, but once you get to high tier, you choose your spawns. And that's actually useful with Photo as well because you can go straight to those spawns and try to find those survivors. However, the problem, again, is that sometimes you won't see them because they're hiding. Or sometimes they'll just spawn so far away from each other where you can't get to all of them in time. And you can only get to 1 or 2 survivors in the Photo World. And that's just very weak, right? So that's kind of the biggest problem with Photo. is that if you don't get lucky and find all the survivors, you're not winning the game. And if you also down a survivor in photo world, share them, and they die in the real world, and you can't find where they're hiding, that's also really bad, because then they just heal up to full, and that was kind of pointless. I mean, you slow down the Cypher Rush a little because they're healing up, but overall, it's really not great. Because Photo has no chase and he is very luck reliant, he is B tier. But he does have a good degree of Cypher control, and that's what makes him around mid B tier. The next hunter in B tier is Percy Undead. Now, Percy is if Percy can share survivors, he would be broken. But the problem is he cannot. Percy does have very good chasing abilities. He can walk, once he has 50 energy, he can walk through pallets without the fear of being stunned. He can just swing and walk through the pallet. You can't transition kite him because he can just dash to catch up. He can jump over pallets in certain windows and through certain windows. And he has very good mobility. He has very good cyber pressure, can get around the map quickly, and he has very good chase, right? But he cannot share survivors. And the problem with this is, even with Percy's sped up bleed out time, because Percy makes survivors bleed out quicker, it's still not good enough. Because survivors can self-rescue themselves with a self-heal. They heal up, they can just heal up on their own. The bleed out time, the amount of time it takes to bleed out is just not fast enough. Survivors can decode very fast, they can Cypher Rush, and Percy just gets Cypher Rushed. And on top of that, if you get the exit gate open and you down someone and they're not dead on ground, they can just crawl out the gate because you crawl faster against a Percy. So I'm sure many of you have played Percy and you've had to endure the pain of watching 3 survivors crawl out the gate in front of your face, right? Like it's really bad. So now Percy does have an ability in which he can move the dungeon once per game, which is useful if a survivor dies on dungeon. However, it takes 5 seconds to move the dungeon when using the effects. So if the dungeon's already open and they already crawl on top of the dungeon, then what are you going to do? They're still able to make it out. So that's also kind of a problem. So if Percy could share survivors, he would be broken. He has very good chase, very good mobility, but he isn't able to share survivors. He does get Cypher Rush. Survivors can self-heal themselves with a self-rescue with a self-heal, and that's what makes Percy B tier. The next hunter in B tier is Mad Eyes. Now, Mad Eyes used to be very good. He's still the hardest hunter in the game to play, but he used to be very good in that you can just pressure Cypher machines endlessly with your consoles. You can trap survivors with your fences, get them down from across the map. But the problem is now the consoles, survivors can decode them very fast and just waste all their energy. And you can burn through them super quick. Mad Eyes consoles burn through energy super quick. The devs kind of destroyed Mad Eyes, which I don't mind. Nobody plays Mad Eyes anyway. I'm not even sure why it's still a hunter, to be honest. Like, nobody actually really plays Mad Eyes anymore, not in any region. You never see Mad Eyes in tournaments. And part of it is because Mad Eyes is hard countered by a lot of characters, such as Doctor, Priestess, anything that can knock him off a console, like a Batter, Prospector, Enchantress, Entomologist, Wildling, Forward, Patient can, if you trap him, Patient can sometimes hook out of it depending on where he's trapped. Perfumer can perfume vault the fence. It opens up the fence that she perfumes back to heal up the damage. Mad Eyes gets countered by a ridiculous amount of characters. And unfortunately, that's what makes him a P tier hunter. And he also has no real chasing abilities besides fences. The next hunter in B tier is Hermit. Now, a lot of people might say, like, Hermit is, oh my god, Hermit's so good, like, I'm scared of Hermit. But Hermit's decent in rank if you don't have a 4-person VC team. But if you do have a 4-person VC team, which you have in tournaments and you do in a team in rank who has 4-person VC, we'll be able to beat Hermit with ease. Because you can simply communicate to your teammates who should switch to what, when you should take a hit for someone, and all that stuff, right? Because Hermit, if survivors split the damage properly, you can keep a survivor alive like the entire game. Now, Hermit does have very good Cypher controls that he can split Cypher progress around the map, and it forces the survivors to do extra Cypher machines, or extra progress at least, to win the game. But the problem is it takes so long to down a survivor as Hermit, and to make matters worse, you have to stun them twice. It's not like an ANCAT where every 10 seconds you have your cats back and you can stun them. With Hermit, you have to stun them twice. You have to get, like a red orb, then a blue orb, or something like that. And the cooldown is kind of long, so it's really not ideal. And on top of that, if you miss the orb, then you're screwed. Because you gotta hit like almost all your orbs, or else you're gonna get kited. Even if you do get kited, you can still usually tie. But the problem is Hermit just has so limited win potential because Survivor, again, if you have 4-person VC and you're communicating these things, survivors can take hits for each other, they can spread out the damage, they can heal up. There's just so many ways survivors can play around Hermit with 4-person VC. Characters like Doctor heal up because they can just take hits for the survivors, heal themselves up, take hits again. And Psychologist as well. Any healing character is very good against Hermit. Support characters like Entomologist Forward, Antiquarian, things like that. Yeah, and if you're playing against a bunch of solo queue randoms who don't communicate well and don't know how to play against Hermit, then Hermit can be very strong. But if you're playing against a team that knows how to play against Hermit and 4-person VC, you're going to struggle, and that's what makes Hermit a B tier hunter. The next hunter in B tier is Anne, Disciple. Now, Anne, once Flywheel came out, Anne was actually very strong. But the thing is, once the adjustment to the Persona Web happened, a lot of survivors went back to bringing Broken Windows. And Broken Windows is quite good against Anne. If you cat a survivor, they vault the window, get a Broken Windows speed boost, and they can sometimes transition far enough away where the Anne can't get the jump off and get the stun. And that's really unfortunate because then you miss your cats. So Anne is top of B tier because she is pretty consistent at getting ties for the most part. In that she has good chase and good camping abilities, but her cipher pressure is a bit limited. Of course, you can cat a survivor and cancel the cats to prevent them from decoding for a little bit, but as long as survivors die away from cipher machines, Anne cannot really do this. So while she does have very good chase and very good camping, her cipher pressure, believe it or not, is actually a lot more limited than it seems. And that makes Anne a very heavy tie hunter. She has good chase, good camp, limited cipher control, B tier tie hunter. Not much else to say about her. All right, moving on to the next tier, which is A tier. There's only 2 hunters in A tier. And the first hunter in A tier is Breaking Wheel. Now, Breaking Wheel obviously used to be S tier, and he was around A+, and then he kind of got knocked down. I recently moved him up from like B-ish tier to A tier in that we saw some Wheel a little bit in the Southeast Asia qualifiers, and it actually ended up doing quite good. Actually, Moru on Mad Penguins, if any of you saw that match, some very impressive Breaking Wheel gameplay over there. And Breaking Wheel is Breaking Wheel has some of the best mobility in the entire game, probably the best actually. You can just go into wheel format, you can literally get across the map in seconds, right? It's insane how much map mobility he has. But the biggest problem with Breaking Wheel is he gets directly hard countered by Flywheel. You can Flywheel the snap, you can Flywheel through the traps. You can Flywheel through the wheel form if you want to avoid getting spiked by something. It's just Breaking Wheel struggles heavily against Flywheel, and that's really the only reason why he's not higher than he actually is that he's countered by Flywheel. If survivors opt to bring Broken Windows, then he's actually quite strong. Actually, the other reason is he's very map specific. He's only good on open maps with limited windows. So, for example, Ever Sleeping Town. Ever Sleeping Town's not really open, but it does have limited windows. So Ever Sleeping Town, Chinatown, Moonlit River Park are maps that he's very good on, but then he's not very good on maps like Red Church, Arms Factory, not very great on Sacred Heart Hospital either. So he gets countered by Flywheel, and he's very map specific, and that's really what makes him A tier. But besides that, he has good chase. You can get 2 spikes and survivors quickly. You can hit a trap on them and down them at full health, just instantly down them. Once he has full presence, he just needs 1 spike. He can get another spike with the full presence ability and then down survivors quickly like that. Once he has his snap, he can snap survivors that have half health and 2 spikes and just instantly down them. There's no counterplay unless you have Flywheel, of course, or you have some sort of stunning ability. So yeah, I mean, overall, Wheel's not that bad. He's just very map specific and gets hard countered by Flywheel, and that's what makes him bottom of A tier. The next hunter in A tier is Axeboy, Robbie Axeboy. A lot of people like Axeboy. So Axeboy is quite strong in that he actually has everything that makes up a good hunter. So what makes up a good hunter is chase, camp, and map pressure, like mobility, map pressure, cipher control, things like that. Those are the 3 traits that make up a good hunter. And he's actually good in all those things. I mean, he's not great like the S tier hunters, but he's good in all of them. He's balanced. Axeboy is very balanced. That's what I like about him. In that he has good chase with his flames. Because if you hit a flame, that's great. You have no attack recovery. You injure a survivor. Put them down to half health, or you down them if they're already half health. If you miss the flame, then you get a very fast speed boost. So you can usually still get a basic hit on them. Once he has his first presence, his 1,000 presence, he can use the paths to the restless roads to get around the map quickly, which gives him good map mobility, makes him very fast. It also means he can chair survivors, he can drag them long distances to chair on cipher machines to pressure ciphers that way. He has good camping. If you're able to get a flame on a survivor plus another, he can stuff a rescue that way. If the survivor had to run through a corrupt zone, they'll get a purple flame, which makes it hard to dodge as well because it follows around the survivor. And yeah, I mean, once he has full presence as well, survivors get slowed down when they leave the corrupt zone, which is very good because Axeboy is very fast. You can catch up instantly. You get hit with a flame. You get a free hit on them, whatever it may be. Axeboy has good chase. He has good camp and he has good cipher pressure. But he doesn't have great chase, great camp, or great cipher pressure, but he has good in all of them. And good is enough to be A tier. Good is enough to be good in rank. It's good enough to be used in late round tournaments. The biggest issue why he's not A+ tier is that he does get countered by Flywheel. You can Flywheel the Flames, which is very difficult for an Axeboy to use. But in rank, where a lot of characters are not always bringing Flywheel, it can be quite useful. And he's actually very good on most maps. He's a hunter that doesn't struggle. What makes him a little bit better than Breaking Wheel is that he's not map dependent. You can play Axeboy in pretty much any map. And that's what makes Axeboy the highest hunter in A tier. Okay, so we actually have one more hunter in A tier, and that is the new hunter Nightwatch. I'm going to represent Nightwatch with a lucky guy. If you guys look into the final, the final image of the tier list at the end of the video, since there's no Nightwatch on the app thingy that I have or on the online thingy, I have to use lucky guy as the Nightwatch. But anyways, Nightwatch is actually A tier. Surprisingly, when Nightwatch first came out, I didn't have a lot of high hopes for this hunter. I actually don't think a lot of people did. Nightwatch just looked very underwhelming. But in reality, Nightwatch is actually not that bad. He's very similar to Geisha, slightly weaker, which keeps him at A+ tier, but still quite a strong hunter in general. Once he gets to full presence, he has good late game map pressure. You can get around the map quickly. His chase is pretty good in that obviously you can pull survivors back towards you. You can get a hit. He has a very fast swing, which makes it difficult to flywheel if survivors try to instant flywheel, things like that. And he just has a lot of great pressure. You can jump over pallets. The jumping over pallets ability ends up being not that strong in that it's sort of just like a fast pallet breaking speed hunter, except that like you don't break the object, so it's still going to be there. It's not like Geisha where you instantly dash over, or like Clerk where you instantly pick up and walk through. You jump over it, so it gives the survivor a second of distance, which is usually enough to kite, depending on the position they're at, but it's still not bad. And then if you do catch survivors in an open area, of course you can pull them back with the wind, get a free hit on them that way. And there's just a lot of ways Nightwatch's chase can get. And then once he's able to build up presence, he has the Percy dashes, sort of where he can dash around the map very quickly, giving him very good late game map pressure. So there's just a lot of things in general that make Nightwatch quite a strong hunter. Doesn't really have a lot of camping abilities, but with good chase and good map pressure, again, very similar to Geisha, it makes him close to where Geisha is. Of course, Geisha is an A+ tier, but this hunter Nightwatch, high A tier, just a little bit weaker with Geisha in that his he doesn't have that pressure. It's not like whereas Geisha can get around the map even faster, and they have equivalent. They both have good chase, and then Geisha can get around the map faster, so that's what makes her a little bit better. Geisha also has the potential drop-down ability hit, which doesn't happen very often, but it gives her a slight edge. A few little things that give her a slight edge, but overall, Nightwatch still very, very strong, and right around the top of A tier, in my opinion. Okay, moving on to the next tier, which is A+ tier. The first hunter in A+ tier is Bonbon. A lot of these A+ tier hunters have just sort of been the same ones we've seen in previous seasons. So we'll go through them pretty quickly. Bonbon is very strong because he has, not only does Bonbon have very good camping abilities, he has pretty decent chase. Once you have full presence, he has very good chase. His bombs recharge very quickly. There's a long range for those bombs. So Bonbon's very good. He's a very consistent tie hunter. He has good chase with blink. He can usually secure a kill pretty quickly. He has the best camp in the game, which makes it very difficult to rescue from a Bonbon. And that's what makes Bonbon very consistent. If he's able to get a kill, he can then camp out the survivor and get another kill in the end game and secure a draw that way, which makes him very good in tournaments and also good in rank because it's hard for him to actually lose. So yeah, he doesn't have incredible map pressure, but he can throw bombs on the Cypher machines. He can throw a control bomb on the Cypher machine to slow down the Cypher progress that way. But for the most part, he has good chase and the best camp in the game, and that simply makes him very consistent and what makes him an A+ tier hunter. The next hunter in A+ tier is Naiad. Now, Naiad is also pretty good in the current meta. She is weak to Antiquarian, but besides that, what makes Naiad very good is that right now the meta is mainly based around supporting rebound kites. So essentially how that works is you're gonna sometimes you'll have 2 survivors going for rescue, for example, maybe like a Prospector. Of course, Prospector is getting nerfed, but this is just an example. Prospector goes in for rescue with like a Mercenary, and the Hunter camping hits the Mercenary, goes into attack recovery, and the Prospector drops 3 magnets, stuns them 3 times, and the survivor that's rescued can get away for free. Or this works with things like Bonbon or Bloody Queen. Well, actually, Bloody Queen can mirror to catch up, but Bonbon, hunters like Anne, any hunter that doesn't have hunters like Sculptor, any hunter that doesn't have great pressure that can get around quickly is going to struggle against this sort of strategy. Whereas Naiad doesn't really mind that. She can just throw her trident, use her dash, and catch up in swim form to catch up very, very quickly. So that's what makes Naiad quite strong in this meta. On top of that, she's also just very consistent in general. A big part of this current meta is body blocking is in the late game to try to body block until the Cypher Machine is primed. Naiad can just circle an area with water. She can dash and with her while she's in swim form and hit both survivors with the dash at the same time, which means they have to dodge it. She can force them to run in the open. There's just a lot of ways Naiad can counter that sort of strategy. So not only does Naiad have pretty good chase early game, she has pretty good camping, especially when she has full presence, and she has good map pressure. So she's strong in all of these things, similar to Axeboy, in that you have good chase, good camp, good map pressure, but Naiad is just even a little bit better in all those things, and that's what makes her an A+ tier hunter. And she's also just more consistent than Axeboy in general. Moving on to the next hunter in A+ tier, that is Bloody Queen. And Bloody Queen has always just been A+, very consistent tie hunter. It's really hard to kite mirror images, even with a flywheel you can still get hit. There's only a very few set of characters that actually kite mirror images effectively, things like Perfumer, Patient. But besides that, a lot of characters do struggle at kiting Bloody Queen mirror images. Keep in mind though, mirror image cooldown is very, very long. So even if you are able to get 2 mirror kills, you're probably still tying a lot of those games. But that's fine. As a Bloody Queen player, your goal is to at least secure a draw. That's the bare minimum with Bloody Queen, and that's what she's very good at doing. And it's pretty much it. She has good chase with mirror images. Actually, she's probably the best chase in the game with mirror images because they're so hard to kite out. No camping abilities, but does have map pressure and cypher control with the long range mirror. And that's what makes Bloody Queen an A+ tier hunter. Very consistent, very good at securing draws when needed. This also makes her a good rank hunter. A lot of survivors will ban her because they want to try to play for wins, not take a free draw against a Bloody Queen. And in tournament, if you need to secure a guaranteed draw, not quite guaranteed of course, but if you need to secure a draw, Bloody Queen is a very good hunter for that. Moving on to the next hunter in A+ tier is Soul Weaver. Now Soul Weaver is very map specific. That's what keeps her sort of in the middle of A+ tier. But she is incredibly strong. Soul Weaver is S tier on Chinatown. S tier on Chinatown. And the reason for that is there are so many areas where you can easily place webs to gain speed boost, catch up to survivors. There's a bunch of like literal random poles sticking out around the map, which you can put webs on against the pole in the wall to get a speed boost. There's just so many ways where Soul Weaver is incredibly strong. And on Chinatown, and she's also good in other areas with narrow kiting areas, such as things like Red Church, or Ever Sleeping Town, or things like that. So Soul Weaver is a very good draw hunter as well. If you do get rotated, she's very good in tournament, because if you get rotated, for those of you who don't know what rotated means, it means like the survivors constantly will rotate around the map when the hunter goes towards their Cypher Machine, so they don't get found too early, or they hide, or things like that. Once she actually finds a target, she has a bunch of webs stacked up because she's been walking around the map for a while, and she can just use those webs to instantly down a survivor. So that's very good. She also has the double web shot ability, of course. Once you're one ship off from full presence, you can web shot, deals a quarter damage, then you get your web shot back instantly because you went up to full presence. You can web shot again, potentially stuff a rescue that way, or insta kill someone. Very strong. She has the cocoon ability, which can play around harassers. There's a lot of things that make Soul Weaver very strong. She also has win potential in that if you save your webs for endgame and there's 3 survivors on the board, they pop the Cypher Machine. Normally that would be a tie, but if you have webs stacked, you can use a bunch of webs to instantly down a survivor, teleport on the gate, get an extra kill, and get a 3 kill that way. And that's what makes Soul Weaver an A+ tier hunter. The next hunter in A+ tier is Sculptor. Sculptor has always been just... She was S tier for a while, and then obviously she got knocked down as some other hunters have just become stronger. But yeah, overall, Sculptor is Sculptor is just sort of a high A+ tier hunter. She has good chase, good camp, good cypher pressure, and has win potential. I mean, that's all the things that make of a good hunter. The statues, of course, are very hard to dodge. You place them in narrow areas. You can force the survivors to not walk through them. You can get a free hit that way. If they do walk through them, you get a free chip shot on them. She has good camping abilities, especially when she has full presence. Those target statues are quite strong. She has map pressure. She can use the chisel to slow down cipher progress, force the survivors off of ciphers, and she can potentially down survivors from across the map using that full presence ability along with the chisel if they've already been injured. So that just, yeah. Good chase, good camp, good cypher pressure. A+ tier hunter, Sculptor. The next hunter in A+ tier and the final hunter in A+ tier is Geisha. Now Geisha, I think Geisha is top of A+. Geisha is very strong. Blink Geisha is incredibly hard to win against. Geisha gets her dash back every 8 seconds. It's so fast. And it's not like a Bloody Queen mirror where it's like, okay, I did a bad mirror. Now I have to wait 13 seconds for the mirror to run out, then another 15 seconds for the mirror cooldown to be up. No, with Geisha, you dash, the cooldown starts immediately. 7-8 seconds, whatever it is, it's reset, and then all of a sudden you're back. I literally play Geisha, and I don't know if it's 7 or 8 seconds. It's weird because the timer looks like it's 7, but I think it's technically 8. I'm not really sure. Anyways, yeah, so Geisha has very good chase. Once she has full presence, it's almost impossible to skill check a dash because she dashes so fast. She can use the drop-down ability to potentially double hit a rescuer or stuff a save that way. It's unlikely. Good rescuers usually play around that, but it sometimes does happen. And then, yeah, just Blink Geisha, very consistent. You can almost guarantee a kill in 60 seconds. As long as you're able to get a hit with one of your dashes in the first 60 seconds, you can use a Blink for the second hit to secure your down within 60 seconds. On top of that, Geisha has very good map pressure. She can dash around the map very, very quickly. Pressure cipher machines to catch up to survivors very fast, and that's what makes Geisha A+ tier. She has very good chase. She has not great camping, but does have a camping ability technically, and sometimes it can work. Good map pressure, good end game, good late game with teleport. If you switch to teleport, of course, with trump card, A+ tier hunter Geisha. Moving on to the final tier, which is S tier, the 3 hunters in S tier. The first one is going to be Wax Artist. And you guys know how much I love Wax Artist. Wax Artist is very consistent and has more win potential than any of these other consistent A+ tier hunters. Wax Artist is incredibly hard to kite for long periods of time. The wax builds up very, very fast on survivors. You need to constantly break sight or use support characters such as Entomologist, such as put maybe Antiquarian to stun the hunter, create some distance, Prospector, slow boxes with Dancer. You have to have some sort of strategy to help kite Wax Artist or you will get kited, because breaking line of sight, you can't do it forever. And the wax builds up so fast for Wax Artist. On top of that, he has so many things going for him. There are some abilities that he has that there's no counterplay, and that's the full presence hot wax. If you wax a survivor up until they have 100 wax, immediately switch to hot wax. You can hit them with the hot wax, then get a basic hit on them, and you down them immediately. And if you do that, there's literally no counterplay to that strategy at all. So, unless of course you flywheel, but they can also bait it out. They can get you to like 90 something wax and stop waxing. You flywheel, bait it out, and then they get you after that. So it's just Wax Artist has no counterplay to that sort of ability. On top of that, he has good cipher control. He can shoot wax bombs on cipher machines. He can wax it off with regular wax. He can wax off multiple ciphers at one time. Wax Artist has great cipher pressure because of those things. Once he has full presence, he has incredibly strong camp again. Instant switch to hot wax down a survivor, stuff, or rescue. Wax Artist has so much going for him. Good chase. Once he's at full presence, incredibly strong camping. Incredibly strong chase at full presence, uncounterable chase. And very strong map pressure. And not map pressure, cipher control. And that's what makes him an S tier. And you can even wax off the exit gates, which is already broken. So Wax Artist is S tier. The next hunter in S tier is Clerk. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Clerk, of course, is very, very good. Clerk's cipher control is some of the best in the game, in that you can look at the cipher machines, record the survivors, and stop them from decoding cipher machines. Block off the cipher if they're not able to pull off of it from in time. Essentially, against Clerk, you have to have 4 survivors up. And if you have one survivor get eliminated, the last cipher has to be almost done. If you're not in that situation, you're probably going to lose the game against the Clerk. Clerk also requires a great deal of support to actually beat her. It's hard to just kite her individually. You need support to help your survivors create distance. That's the best way to beat Clerk. So if you're in rank and you're playing Clerk and you're not playing against a 4-person VC team and they're not supporting, then Clerk's going to be very strong for that reason. So Clerk has good chase, although she does get countered by transition kiting. Incredibly strong Cypher pressure, is probably the best in the game, next to Dream Witch. And just overall, very good map control. Very good control of the overall board. And that's what makes Clerk S tier. The last hunter in S tier and the final hunter S tier, the best hunter in the game. It's really a toss-up between Clerk and this hunter, but I still think it is this hunter, and that is Dream Witch. Dream Witch is just still incredibly good in this game. With the addition of Antiquarian, I feel like Dream Witch is slightly weaker because that's another counter to Dream Witch that's been included into this game. For example, if you go for a trap between 2 leeches, you can stun one of the leeches to escape that way. You can use the flip to cancel Patroller Bite. Antiquarian can be very strong against Dream Witch, but Dream Witch is still very, very good. Double Patroller is so broken. The ability to pressure Cypher machines over and over with leeches and followers is just very good. Dream Witch has very good chase. She has slow chase, but very consistent chase. Double Patroller is very hard to avoid. And then she has incredible map pressure with the leeches. You can pressure Cypher machines while camping. And her late game is very, very strong. Next to the best in the game next to Clerk, of course. And that's what makes Dream Witch S tier, just incredibly strong map pressure. And again, next to Clerk, the best win potential in the game. So Clerk and Dream Witch are very even in terms of S tier, and then Wax Artist is S tier, but right behind them. He's not weak enough to be A+, because he's very, very good. He's not quite as good as them. These are sort of like S++. Sorry, not S+. S+ is Dream Witch and Clerk, and Wax like S-, sort of like that, if that makes sense. But yeah, Dream Witch S tier. And that's going to wrap it up for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this video was helpful. Next video is going to be predictions on the apples for Koa. I know you guys really wanted that. Koa is starting soon, starting this month, in the month of April, and going into May. So don't forget to watch that. If you guys like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.